Welcome to the Embodiment Podcast. This show is for you if you see the body as more than a brain taxi. It's for people interested in coming home to the body as a holistic aspect of who we are and how we live. Episodes contain practical tips, exercises you can take away, and interviews with specialists from around the world. I'm your host for today, Mark Walsh.
So on the show today, Chris Van der Weide. I can't fucking say her name. She's Dutch, but she's cool. I like her a lot. She's an intimacy coach. She's a Tantra teacher. We're going to be talking about lockdown sex, intimacy in the apocalypse, how your relationship can survive this crazy-ass time. Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. That was a beautiful introduction.
I told you it would be. Now, you're in a tent now, right? A yurt.
I am.
And obviously in Mongolia?
Obviously in the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands, Utrecht area, right?
Well, a little under, but yeah.
A little under. That's a little under is France. Sorry, I'm teasing your small country. Hello to all our Dutch listeners. So let's hear about you first, Chris. Let's let listeners get to know you a little bit. So how did you get interested in the body and in intimacy?
It's been a long journey, actually. I got interested in the body and in intimacy, I think, already growing up. My parents were involved in Tantra, teaching it as well. I studied theater, I studied dance, the body in performance. I did this various places in the world, and somehow it was very unsatisfying to me. I was always looking for this spark, or just the juice of there must be more to this. And when I was doing my master degree of the body and performance and somatic movement in London, I just felt like that whole business was elbowing each other out. And I was fed up with it. So I moved to Mexico and spent 3 years on the shore in a spiritual community. And that's where things really started to fall into place for me. And at this moment, I am offering a mixture of all of that together, I could say, through under the name of Unveiling Intimacy.
Okay, so you're a Tantra baby. So you're
I'm a Tantra baby.
Second generation Tantrika.
That's cute. I've never been called a Tantra baby.
Tantra baby conceived in a 7-hour-long lovemaking session in a mountain in India.
I'm afraid not, because my dad wasn't there quite.
Damn, we missed it. Yeah, he wasn't there. How's that possible?
Well, he wasn't in the tantric part. It's my mom and my stepdad.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay, and any big influences in this field, just to sort of place your training for people?
What do you mean by that?
Like schools, like there's different schools of training or different teachers.
For sure. So in Mexico, I spent a long time at a place named Hridaya Yoga. I feel heavily influenced by Margot Anand, Skydancing Tantra. Here in the Netherlands, I've studied with Wild Tantra. There is this woman, Pema Gitama. A lot of it finds its roots in both Osho and traditional Tantra and more modern Western psychology also.
Okay. And why do you do it now? What is it that kind of motivates you to keep working in this field?
Because I find it's such a sweet and fruitful entrance for people to find opening in. Like right now, the word Tantra, right, it has this connotation with sex. So for the majority of people, especially here in the West, if you say the word Tantra, they will think it's about sex, it's about lovemaking, it's about spicing up your sex life, etc., etc. And actually, it's an ancient tradition deriving from thousands of years back and holding within it a pointer for truth. And it uses sexual energy within their practices, but from an original standpoint, it was maybe 5% of the practices, and only given from teacher to student, from teachers to students. So right now we're looking at this tiny bit of the whole vast scope that Tantra can be, and we are applying it in the West and found out a new name for it, neo-tantra.
Mhm.
But it's super fruitful because sexuality is something that people actually are interested in, right? Everyone wants sex or has sex, or if they don't have it, they want it or want to know how to improve it, because it's this field of so potent.
Subjective interest for most people. And just so you're not spreading misinformation, that as I understand it, modern neo-tantra has almost no connection with ancient lineages. I mean, if you look at Chris Wallace's kind of research and stuff like that. So I just want to, have that clear to listeners, because I keep hearing this thing that, this is a practice that goes back thousands of years, and that's nearly always bullshit and at best kind of unverifiable. And, was a tiny part of of classical tantra was the sexual practices. But in any event, many people find neo-tantra useful and helpful. So kind of why not? I'm a bit of a stickler for historical truth.
Hey, that's very, very good. Yeah, and very true.
So what I'm most interested in right now is this current situation that many people find themselves in, where people are in their houses with partners. And many of us are on, lockdown, as it's sometimes called. People are not allowed to leave the house, or leaving the house a whole lot less than before. And they find themselves in these situations where maybe their intimate partner is the only person they're around. Walking in the park today, most people were couples. I did see parents and children, or sort of grown children and elderly parents. But the majority of people that were there, not on their own, were with people, I guess, with their intimate partners. And there's just this incredible potential pressure or potential opportunity that's there right now for many of the people in this weird COVID backdrop. So, I'd love to hear your views on what this might bring out.
Well, this could go in many directions, because you're pointing it right there. It could go either one way, right? This is an amazing opportunity to be together 24/7, to actually have time at hand but then you should really know how to make use of it. Otherwise you can drive each other berserk. So both of them are happening, and I see both of them happening around me. And actually quite a few people have contacted with me with either success stories or going berserk in the midst of it. So we could talk about both.
We're just beginning, right? So we're just beginning. So I mean, I've already, this could be going on a long time. And
for sure,
pressures in relationship. I've heard of communication difficulties, people just winding each other up. I've also heard of people saying, "Oh, great, we're having loads of sex for the first time in ages." Or, "Oh, there's a romance to this situation. It's like a common enemy." Me and my wife were talking about, right, the food's getting delivered. Finally, we've got a food delivered. We're gonna have to make it clean. This is the procedure. I'm like, I've been like this, like hunter, like going out. Right, I've got some toilet roll or some hand gel. I'm bringing it back to the house like some victorious caveman going out into the dangerous. And there's a sort of bonding romance to this shared danger as well. So maybe let's start.
Sweet. Yeah, it's connecting. You have a common enemy, right?
Common enemy, common challenge, adversity to work against. Things right. We've got to get enough food. We've got to get this. Okay, what about the house? And then also just like really domestic shit. Like, Mark, can you not leave so much mess? Because we used to have a cleaner. The cleaner's gone. Okay. It's like, Mark, what about this chore? Mark, what about this space? Daria, can you give me some space here? So some very just practical little micro strains, that I can imagine if we didn't have good communication, which I think we do, could quite quickly develop into stresses. And then who do you talk to about that stress, right? Like, it's not like you can go to the pub and vent to your 10 friends.
No, but there are a few good points in what you're saying just now. Provide each other with space and make clear agreements about that. I could elaborate on that further. Create ways to communicate, specific forms of communication that will help both of you speak your truth without the other person interfering, without the other person replying, like creating space for the absence of reactivity, basically. What was the last thing you said? A network. So still very much you're going to want to contact other people. You're going to not want to find your resolution with each other all the time. Maybe you want to, but in all likelihood, it won't happen.
We'll talk to people, right? I'm talking to you now. We can still talk to
people. Exactly.
Let's break those down then, because I think each one is a gold mine for people who maybe are newer to this, don't have these skill sets. So clear communication. Let's talk about what that is, what that might look like. Say a bit more about that.
So clear communication. Oh, I could start at this from so many angles.
What's going to be useful for people in this kind of situation? Like, imagine a couple, they've heard a Tantra, they haven't really been on any workshops, and they're now going, okay, we need something extra because we're in this pressure cooker.
So my number one to go to practice is called inquiry. Mm-hmm. And it's not self-inquiry, which derives from Ramana Maharshi. People are often confused when I use those words. But it's actually a sharing method in which you take turns speaking. So you set a timer, and this can be anything between 5 to 20 minutes. And you're just sitting opposite each other, and one person holds space for the other person to speak. And you're not necessarily going to speak about everything that happened to you, or about the discussion you had, or about yada, 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 but about what is present right here, right now. What are you feeling in your body? What does it feel like to be in this moment? There might be discomfort, there might be anger, there might be fear. Like the whole scale of emotional range might pass. But can you learn to really investigate what that feels like in your body and become, well, if you like, quite metaphorical? So instead of saying, I'm angry, how does that actually feel? How does anger feel tangibly in your body? Maybe your belly is contracted. Maybe your chest is more tight.
Yeah.
Etc.
We've lost some beginners here. So just the key parts here is good. Key parts here is that this turn taking. So unlike in a normal conversation where there's a certain habit or you interrupt each other, whatever, there's a turn taking. So people get a real okay, I can really speak now. And it's in the present moment rather than in necessarily the story. And there might be some other little rules in there, like speak from the first person and don't use blame.
Exactly.
Some other kind of things.
And don't react to each other. We're so deeply, the habit of reacting is so deeply ingrained, with nodding, with even internally saying, that happened to me too. Or when you say this or that, it makes me feel like you're just, like in Tantra, we call that you're just being the Buddha for the other person.
You're offering presence, right? You're offering.
Exactly.
So it's a meditation, but instead of, people might know, meditating on the breath or the body, you're actually just being as present as you can to the other person. And I find it's very useful, even though I think me and my wife might have pretty good communication, sometimes to make that space and say, right, we're going to do 3 minutes each way or 5 minutes, and actually have that sort of space that's really clean to do that.
Yeah, I do that every day. I do it with my friend with whom I live here. I do it with my partner. I do it with all my intimate relationships, and preferably on a high frequency.
What does that mean, sir?
I mean frequently.
Oh, frequency, like quite a lot. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I meant like the space vibes with high frequency.
No,
Chris is ripping out of me, man.
Yeah.
I got you on precisely to not have that. Okay, God, cool, we're on the same page. And what if someone said, you know what, that's still a bit kooky and weird, just give me some tips for communication? Like, just give me some top tips. Have you got anything even lower level than this practice, which some people just won't do? You know, there are times when I ask Daria about this, let's do this, and she's like, no, I can't be bothered. She's not into that so much sometimes. So any other sort of just general communication tips?
So just breathe a few times before you respond.
Got it.
That, I think, is your to-go-to.
Right.
Yeah.
Pause.
And indeed, you just mentioned speak from the I person. This will be fruitful for all of us at any given moment in time. Speaking from my experience rather than you're doing it wrong. The thing I see you do makes me feel like da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, so not holding other people responsible for your emotions, speaking from your own personal point of view. I mean, the non-violent communication stuff's good, isn't it? Around looking at denial.
Absolutely. And if you're bringing up NVC, what's really a good method as well is repeating what you think the other person said.
Paraphrasing, yeah.
Yeah. So what I think I hear you say is, etc. And then you can check, is that correct?
Right. And as a question, that way, if you're wrong, it's still helpful because you clarifies things. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. So Chris, what I hear you saying is that paraphrasing is really important for couples. Is that what you said?
That is what I'm saying, yeah.
Great. So I'm just giving a paraphrase. All right. So, see what I did there? Come on. It's audio only. They can't see that gesture. All right. So, what else have we got here then? So, there's paraphrasing, there's tips, boundaries as well, right? Like,
For sure.
To ask for what you want, to be able to say, honey, would you be able to wash up within 1 hour of eating? Is that possible? Is that something you're willing to commit to? Like being able to ask for what you want, and me being able to say, for example, you know what, we had an agreement that you wouldn't put your clothes in this room. I really like this room for meditation and yoga. Would you mind putting your clothes outside? You know, that was a boundary. You said you wouldn't do that. Like being able to hold each other accountable for agreements too.
Absolutely. So you have clear agreements and you have clear consent.
Mm-hmm.
Clear yeses, clear nos. And if there's unclarity, you clarify it. And silence, I would say, is a big, important part of communication as well. Creating times, maybe a set time in the day in which you do not communicate. And you might even want to go as far as no cuddles, no eye contact is taking it a bit rigorous, but really feel as if you're having alone time.
Right.
That period of the day.
Space where you leave people alone. I've seen this quite gendered in some ways, but I think it's important for all of us too. Space to leave people alone. And also, like, sometimes I think people can overtouch and overtalk. And I noticed that, like, today I sort of commuted down the corridor to my office, and I've been in here all day. And now I have this like urge to go back and see my wife this evening. And there's been a bit of separation, even in the space of a fairly small 3-room apartment. So it's we've had that separation, which means the coming together is quite nice, rather than just like constantly being in each other's space.
Yeah, you don't want to become a melted together melting pot. Couple. No. And in normal day life, that's easier because you both have, in all likelihood, you both have different occupations. You don't both have different circles of friends, etc.
Right.
So it's more easy to maintain that. And right now, you're going to really have to cultivate that.
Yeah, it's unconscious going there for that. And as you say, reaching out to other friends too, to be like, hey, I'm going to call up my mate Dasa. I want to kind of talk to him. Or, hey, I can see my wife's really tired of hearing about my work because that's all I ever talk about. Maybe I'll phone someone who actually really likes hearing about my work. You know, like it's like that basic consideration, you know? Yeah. And what about if you just get sick of each other? So you're bouncing around this box a few months from now, a few weeks from now. It's just like, oh, I love you, honey, but you're driving me nuts. You know, what do you do then?
Whew. In all honesty, I think if you, like, it might be a bold statement, but I think if you actually do these like practices and create conscious space for communication, conscious space for distance, conscious space for intimacy, conscious lines outwards, you're not going to get sick of each other. And if you are getting sick of each other completely, you might want to reconsider your relationship.
Well, there's definitely going to be relationships that break up, and there's a lot of Chinese couples split up, you know, due to lockdowns there. There's some data on that now. I think it's also perfectly healthy couples that will just go a bit crazy with each other, even if...
For sure. So also have compassion for that.
Yeah.
We are in an unnatural situations, unnatural behavior will occur.
Yeah. Okay, what about sex then? Let's talk about that. So
let's do it.
It's on the computer. We can't. So there's also this idea of polarity that we've talked about, separation already, right? Like separating out, as not merging. And that's also a pretty wise principle just sexually, right?
Absolutely. You want to have time apart, or at least energetically, you want to have time apart so that you can inhabit your own, let's say, energy field. Is this word beginner enough?
Not really. Try again.
So that you can inhabit your own body, your own being, and meet your partner in their body, in their being, as if you're going on a first date almost.
Nice.
So evidently that's not going to happen because you're in a lockdown situation. You already know each other good enough.
You could be like, honey, I could send my wife a text like, honey, let's go to the movies at 8. I've got a nice movie on Netflix you're going to like. Can you maybe dress up, you know, put on a shirt?
Well, precisely.
Have a little date in the living room later, you know, like actually set that up. That could be kind of nice.
That could be really, really nice. And remember those times where you were just getting to know each other and how sparkly it felt and how you're kind of like touching around the space, having all your senses open. So this is a main thing. Actually, this time is super, super fruitful to become more aware in your sensorial perception. And you can use this lockdown for that.
It's almost like when
to a great extent.
Yeah. I'm thinking of it like we have so much quantity of time with a partner in a relationship, but even more so now that we can lose the quality. Like hey, let's do a massage for half an hour. Hey, let's actually really listen to each other. Hey, let's go on a date. Let's have some good sexy time. Like the quality can get lost in the amount of quantity of time you're with each other.
That's why you really need to allocate time and space for specific aims. Getting the practicalities of the house done, allocate time and space for that. Having your daily check-in moment, allocate time and space for that. Silence, allocate time and space for that. Intimacy, sex, allocate time and space for that.
It sounds like especially, and this is pretty Germanic, like sex schedule now, we have the intimate time allocated. Like it's all sounding a bit like a schedule, a bit like
you're
heavy,
speaking to a Germanic lady, mister.
Yeah, Dutch is basically German, but a bit kinder with some mild COVID symptoms in the throat. So.
No, but listen to me, because what I'm trying to say with that is that in our normal schedules, we have times in which we usually make love, right? And for many of us, it's later in the day. It's before we fall asleep. Or it might be first thing in the morning, which is already a better scenario, in my opinion. And now we have the opportunity to create a moment of lovemaking midday.
Yeah. Nice time to fuck, I think.
Yeah. That's going to really, really change how you're going to experience lovemaking with one another.
Yeah.
Also with yourself, by the way. We could speak about this too.
Well, this is kind of episodes for the couples. I think we're going to do another episode for the people who are in this alone, because that is a big deal and it's something I want to address actually. But I feel like for this one, let's focus on the couples, and we'll do another one which will be more about dealing with the loneliness. Now, there's something that's on my radar, and I'm certainly, I said to my wife today, I'm so grateful I'm here with you and not on my own for this, because that, just from a touch point of view, let alone a sex point of view,
exactly.
I could manage a couple of months without sex, but without touch, that's not cool,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so love to everyone out there who's listening to this on their own. Yeah. Break to tell you about our program. So as well as the podcast, we have various kinds of online training. So we have the Embodied Yoga Principles online training, as well as in-person training. Embodied Yoga Principles for yogis who want to get yoga off the mat, specialize in the psychology of yoga, unique postures. It's a 5-day training. We have one in Brighton, one in Berlin, and one in Austin, Texas. So if you go to Embodied Yoga Principles, you can find them. Also the online version of the training for people who can't make those dates. Excellent courses. The Embodied Yoga Principles training for the yogis. For the coaches and facilitators, we have the Embodied Facilitator course. This is our flagship course. We offer it in Moscow, also in the UK. A 9-month adventure, real deep dive into embodiment. It's the biggest embodiment program I do. It could be like movement people who want to work in business more. We have people like dancers and martial arts teachers come to learn more about working in mainstream settings, but also for coaches and trainers who want something really well structured, who want to work on themselves, who want to learn practical tools, learn how to work with the body in facilitation. If you can't make EFC, and it is a big ask, there's an online course we run called the Foundations of Embodiment Certification. So if you go to Embodied Facilitator, you'll find the in-person, and then --FEC, F-E-C, F for Freddie, E-C for Charlie, FEC. You'll come out with the Foundations of Embodiment Certification, and also do one-day events all around the world. So I'm just about to do a tour to Slovenia, Berlin, Copenhagen, Brussels, Amsterdam, and Brighton. The Brighton one is £10 which is like $15. So if you're coming from abroad, that could make that affordable. The Brighton one's always like a really big fun one, so that's coming up. Again, go to the Embodied Facilitator course to see all of these events. And we have a little online evening as well. If people just want a taster, again, that's £10. That's a 3-hour thing coming up as well. Embodiedfacilitator.com, embodiedfacilitator.com, and you'll find all those events with embodied yoga principles for the yoga ones. Okay, so that's the stuff that I sell. Oh, and the book, the embodiment book. If you want to get my book and learn about embodiment through reading, you can also get the embodiment book available at Amazon and no good bookstores. So yeah, there we go. Excuse the interruption, and back to the episode.
What are your top tips for those who are on their own, don't have the possibility of a partner?
Touch yourself. It sounds a bit blunt, but I really, really, really mean it. Touch yourself a lot. And also here, create time and space to consciously touch yourself. So self-massage, anything you can think of that engages the senses. Make yourself a nice meal. Take time and space to enjoy it, to really taste the different flavors. Make yourself a bath if you have that luxury, or a warm shower.
Yeah.
Use oils, smells.
So actually a real sensual experience rather than just kind of cracking off kind of thing. The race to the orgasm kind of normal style.
Hey, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone.
Tantra girls. Yeah. Okay. So what are people who just have got that loneliness going on? How can we? There's emotional needs you can meet, talking to people, self-touch. I imagine this is going to be pretty tough on people.
Absolutely. If you have the possibility to go out into nature, go out into nature as much as you can, because this is gonna, in all likelihood, be your biggest source of feeling connected to a bigger whole.
Yeah. Well, I did a celibate period. It was the hardest day of my life. No, it wasn't a day. I did a celibate. Good joke, huh? I did a celibate period. Gotcha. I did a celibate period for 40 days and 40 nights before my 40th birthday. And I found nature almost sort of soothingly, femininely erotic in some sense. Like, it was definitely one of the things that I was like, okay, well, I'm not having sex for 40 days, but I still need the feminine quality. If listeners get offended by that term, go fuck yourself. But there's that quality I needed, and I felt like just walking in the woods and stuff gave me a load of that. I don't know if this would be a similar experience for women or not, but for me, that was definitely part of how I made it through those 40 days.
I can totally relate to that. It's not for nothing that in pretty much all languages, the earth is referred to as feminine. Right? It's her, it's Pachamama, it's Mother Earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's she holding us, and she, well, if we go a bit more into esoteric Tantra, we could speak about Shiva and Shakti and yada, da, da, da. All the words mean shit if I don't put them in the right context. But Shakti being the manifested reality, and often equated with the feminine. So the whole of nature, and your body is nature. That's why it will resonate when you bring it into contact with nature. Be in contact with the elements as much as you can. The air on your skin, the sun on your face. Walk bare feet on the earth if you can. Lay yourself down on the earth. If you can't, if you're really locked down in an apartment and you have no access to nature, find a window you can open. Open that window. Invite sunlight on your face. Yeah. Like worst case scenario, put on a thick winter coat if it's really chilly and windy outside, and sit in front of that window, read a book, or do movement exercises in front of that window. But hug your chamber plant. Whatever it takes.
I got my little plant next to me here on the computer all day long.
It's beautiful, yeah.
It's my big feminine lily here. Nice smell. Actually, the reason it's in here is because my wife said it stunk too much to be in the living room, so I have to have the lilies. I was like, darling, I brought you beauty to save us through the hard times. She was like, it stinks, get it out of my room. So I was like, okay, so now I've got a nice lily in my office. It's not a bad thing. So good communication, see, nice and clear, made the request. So, yeah. And also, I guess, also to say, a lot of the time people confuse sexual needs for other needs. So I notice when during that period of celibacy that I have, that I did, I was still getting a lot of touch and I was still getting a lot of really good emotional connection with people. And actually the need for sex was much lower than I thought because I was normally combining those things, you see. And then when I separate them out, I was like, oh, okay, I'm still kind of horny and I still kind of would rather get laid right now, if I'm honest. But it wasn't as bad as I thought. And I know some people might be listening to this and going, 40 days, that's nothing. But for most men to last 40 days without an orgasm, unless they're tantric people, it's pretty unusual. And it wasn't that difficult. I was going to say it wasn't that hard, but that wouldn't be the case at all. It wasn't that tricky because I was able to get a lot of love and affection and connection and other needs met. And we're seeing this in embodiment circles, for example. People are online connecting in a really beautiful way. And I think that eases people's loneliness a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there are many ways to go about this. Of course, the difference between your celibacy and the celibacy we're experiencing right now, well, for some of us, is that it's choice.
Yeah, and that makes it very different, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think there is a way of, surrender turns circumstance into choice. Like that's the power of surrender, right? As you say, well, this has happened, but I choose to accept even though you didn't choose the thing, that's when you enter into choice, and that's got a very different quality than victimhood.
Exactly. Yeah. So there is actually a lot of empowerment in this situation, I find. And I do indeed find that surrender is the key. And I also see around me that surrender comes relatively easy in this situation because it's such I don't quite know the English word for this. Like the force of the pandemic is of such a vast scale.
Like an archetypal kind of epic
exactly
power, isn't it? Yeah.
We can't, like the individual cannot fight it. So we cannot as an individual change it. So all that remains is to surrender.
Yeah, it's like
that's a lot easier.
Or being on a volcano when it erupts. There's a quality of just like, hey, this is nature doing its thing. It's something much bigger than my own life. So okay, I have to surrender to it. And I mean, I'm seeing people suffer directly in proportion to their ability to surrender right now. Like the people I'm seeing suffering and the people I'm seeing not suffering, to actually maybe enjoying or learning even, like those people, that's directly correlated to that one single trait. Creativity is pretty important right now, I'm seeing, like how to be creative in your relationship, how to be creative in your business, but surrender is maybe the biggest one. Okay, how about this? What if this frame flips now to how to survive the apocalypse, to the sexual apocalypse, to how to make the most of it as a learning and growth experience with your partner?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do we do that?
How do we do that? We go and look for practices to embark on together, and a few very simple. Well, first of all, creating that time and space midday to actually explore intimacy with each other in the light, and apply your communication tools also in the bedroom, because many people forget how they work when sexual energy is involved. So slow down, and become very aware. Hey, what is it I actually like? What is it I actually want? What is it my body yearns for? And you're going to also learn this through clear communication, because clear communication is going to help you listen to your body in order to bring it into contact with your partner. And so this we can apply in the bedroom as well. And it's a matter of training, because most of us are looking at, well, take the number of your age. That's the amount of years you've been conditioned into a certain type of sexuality, into a certain type of arousal, into a certain type of relating, not necessarily with one another. That depends on the length of your relationship and the amount you're working on it. But there is a whole lot of deconditioning to do. So also, please be compassionate and take it with a lot of light and playfulness. So play around with each other and have spaces where you can really say, okay, now it's your turn to say for an hour, how can I pleasure you?
Okay, my lunch break's only an hour, so can we do half an hour both ways? Is that...
We can do half an hour both ways, absolutely.
It's fun to play that game, you know, and I know people do this like Wheel of Consent people, a Betty Martin type style of just like, hey, just let me be of service. What do you want? And then there's something about that kind of forces both people into a role of like one person into like actually being really willing to ask and the other person to really check in like, hey, is this actually okay with me? Do I want to do this?
Exactly. Because you can always reply, and you should, if that's your truth, with, I can't do that for you. What else can I do for you?
Yeah, I would say I won't rather than I can't. I mean, that's quite an important distinction for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's English.
Okay, it's a linguistic thing. Yeah. Okay, what else? What if people are just sort of a little bit bored of, you know, Friday night sex, and it's the same old thing with their partner and they're on lockdown, so there's even more. Any tips for spicing things up in this situation?
Yeah, you're going to have to meet each other again. And in order to do that, you're first going to have to meet yourself again. And you might meet yourself in contact with your partner, though it's easier to meet yourself separately. So what I would recommend any couple actually is to have a sexual practice together, but also a sexual practice apart. Go and explore. What do I really like? What turns me on? Because most often when it gets boring in the bedroom, we forgot what really spices us up. And maybe there are funky fantasies, and maybe it's super scary to bring them into contact, and they might not happen, but even bringing them into contact creates space for a new possibility to open up.
Cool.
And I can't not say this, being a Tantra girl, invite sacredness and consciousness in your sexual play. And what I mean with that is, when we make love, we are creating something. If it's not a baby, we are creating a specific type of energy. And that specific type of energy can be fused with an intention. So what do we want to create? Is that horniness? Is that, what did you just say 20 minutes ago? Go for the orgasm?
Race to the orgasm.
Race to the orgasm. What is it we want to create? Is that love? Is that clarity? Is that infuse your lovemaking with an intention. This can be such a beautiful practice, but maybe you need a few steps before that, like really discovering your own body. That's
I feel like I should kind of represent the lower chakras here too, you know, because often I feel like the Tantra people, they're obsessed with spiritual sex and heart sex, both of which are great, right? But I also go, sometimes what's missing is just the hard animal fucking. Like, it seems like to me like that. Also, there's types of people, right? There's people whose sexuality is much more energetic. People, it's much more just genital and physical. I mean, there are different types of people, I reckon, in this world.
There are different preferences, I would say.
Yeah.
So not necessarily, types, preferences, just how you want to call it. But the real fun starts when we have that broad range and we can choose. Do I want raw animalistic sex? Do I want uplifted heart sex? Do I want everything exploding in my 7th chakra? I mean, if we're going to make fun, you know. Am I playing in between those ranges? The freedom comes when we can choose. Uh-huh. And of course, the Tantrikas, don't get me wrong, it's not all coconut oil and candlelight and Palo Santo and prayer and
I'm sorry, my dick's the limpest it's ever been after you've said all that. I'm sorry, that's like that. Listeners, Chris and I have interacted before, just for the record. She's not a complete This is how I would treat a guest who I met for the first time. Across the line.
Thanks, Mark.
That's good. Just good. You get special bad treatment. I kind of trust. I trust that you'll tell me if I cross the line. Am I right there?
I will.
Yeah, I thought you might. You get Dutch lady on me. So, so I think that might help people. Yeah. Anything else? Anything we haven't kind of covered that you think would be useful?
I could expand on all of these topics a lot more. Make sure to have fun together. Maybe pick up a new hobby together, like go and try, I don't know, acro yoga or something like that.
Do a video off the internet, download acro yoga, fall over at yourself. No
exactly. But I mean, it's a very dangerous thing because there is so much negativity in the news right now.
Yeah, we've got to be careful of watching the news together too much and just getting into
Absolutely. Absolutely. Have fun. Spread laughter. Be aware of what energy you're inviting into your space and into your interaction. Yeah.
I think that's a nice way of looking at it. It's like, am I a gift to my partner right now? Like, am I bringing a certain vibe, a certain way of being, a certain energy, if you will, to my partner? Is that going to be a gift? And if it's not, and I'm doing that every day, how's that going to end up? You know what I mean?
That's beautiful.
It's like, how's that going to end up? And so that's something I'm aware of. It's like, okay, am I nagging again? Am I being critical again? Am I just being like expecting this person to emotionally uplift me and being grumpy again? You know, because if I keep leaning on a person emotionally that way, sooner or later they're going to get tired of it. They're going to go,
Absolutely.
you know what? This isn't a gift. You're taking. Am I giving or taking emotionally? I think is kind of an interesting question. You know, I don't want to get into like energetic vampires and that kind of bullshit, but like just that question: am I giving or taking emotionally right now? Like I feel like that's a useful question. And not that it's wrong to be taking, but that if that's all you ever do, maybe that relationship's out of whack.
Well, and it's key to become aware of it. Let's not make that statement. Many people are not aware whether they are draining energy of another person or
enriching or like.
Exactly. Thank you. So there needs to be an awareness. If you are walking away from every interaction with your partner feeling, I'm exhausted, that can give you a clue. If you walk away from every interaction from your partner feeling uplifted, but you see they are exhausted, that can give you a clue. So become aware of your energy system, of your partner's energy system, and become very transparent about it. There is nothing wrong with needing something from one another. We need to represent many roles for one another in a partnership. That's actually supernatural. But become transparent. It's like, hey, I am feeling shit and like a 3-year-old, and can you hold me in this? Can you stay present with me in this, instead of pretending it's not there and still needing it from the other person?
I remember the first time we met in a cafe in Utrecht, right from the start of us being friends, there was a conversation of like, it was like crazy energetic, like whoa, like loads of, and then it was like, oh, and then I sort of, I'm exhausting you a little bit, I'll chill out a little bit, you know, like just being able to have that conversation live and in the moment is a really useful conversation to be able to have, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, just being transparent. It's easy yet not simple, or the other way around, simple yet not easy.
Okay, well, I kind of feel like we're starting to come to a natural close here. I feel when I'm interviewing people, I often notice a sort of release in my body or relaxation after a certain period of time. And anything else before we start to wrap up? There's a couple of things to close with I usually do. But it's good that pause is good, that you can just take a moment to feel, right? Like a lot of people don't do that.
Yeah.
For the record, listeners, Chris is laughing and thinks I'm funny and cool, just in case you can't see her face. Okay, Chris, this has been a delight. Oh, more? There's more? Go on. We have time.
Maybe 2 more tiny things. Is that you really... I'm just thinking of people in isolation, because this is evidently the topic of this call, intimacy and isolation. And both if you're single or if you're together, find ways of expressing yourself. So really use, I I'm sure if you're listening to this series, you've heard it a million times before, but breath, movement, sound, it's so, so, so important to infuse it into your daily practice, find ways to move, to dance, and find a common practice. So if you are in lockdown with your partner, a common practice, and that can be a common yoga practice, a common meditation practice, a common dance, whatever you might want to learn, salsa together. There must be internet classes on that, but find something in which your togetherness is emphasized in again a way that you allocate time and space for that, because that's gonna help you keep your in Dutch we say keep your nose in the same direction. I think you might say so in English too, I'm not sure.
No, we don't say that, but it makes sense. I like it. Keep your nose in the same direction.
And have a practice of gratitude. Don't shy away to thank each other, only if you mean it.
We do this
super important.
Yeah.
But so important to keep on voicing your appreciation to one another. We can relax in that. Yeah. Cool. Okay, I'll leave it here.
Okay, well, thank you, Vel. And thank you to all our Dutch listeners out there who I'm teasing at the moment for some reason. I don't know why. Well, they're one of our biggest listener groups, actually. So anything you want to say in Dutch for our Dutchies listening?
Fijn dat je geluisterd hebt. Dank je wel dat je erbij bent. Nee, verder eigenlijk niet meer.
There we go. So I'm calling this Love in the Time of COVID.
Beautiful.
Like Love in the Time of Cholera. See what I did? Come on, that's creative. And where do people find you on the internet if they want to check you out? See what you're all about?
Unveilingintimacy.com. That's www.unveilingintimacy.com.
Cool. And closing message about the body. Do you have a closing message about the body?
A closing message about the body.
Yeah. You don't listen to my fucking podcast. This is no editor. Leave that in. Leave that shit in. Closing message about the body.
The body is your home. It's your temple. Please take it as a sacred place. Feed it, nourish it. It's your guide. Learn to listen to it and then learn how to respond to the messages it's communicating with you.
Chris, thank you so much for tolerating me today.
You're welcome, my friend. It's a pleasure, Mark.
Some ways to get more, to give back, and to get more involved now. So the biggest request I have would be to share the podcast with your friends, people that you think would really enjoy it. Email it to them, put it on your social media, tell them about it, old school. Really appreciate that. Equally, if you want to support us financially, you can go to Patreon. That's patreon.com/embodiment podcast and give us $1 an episode. And I'd say they're well worth $1. So that's less than £1 if you're in UK-ish. So please go there. On the embodyfacilitator.com website is where this is hosted. If most people I think listen to for iTunes. iTunes, we'd certainly appreciate a review. The way iTunes works means that a review means more people will find it. iTunes regards it as more important for searches. So even a couple of sentences review really does help as a little thank you to us. And if you want to go to embodyfacilitator.com, you can see the actual, links to the sites. There's comments on there. The Facebook group tends to be where people discuss things. So if you go to put in the Embodiment Podcast into Facebook, there's a page which is relatively quiet and a group which does have some discussion on. So I will reply to things personally there. So also on embodyfacilitator.com website, there's all sorts of freebies there. There's videos, there's free ebooks, there's ebooks you can buy. And of course, there's our newsletter list. If you want to stay in touch and learn about things like the Embodied Facilitator course and our next Embodied Yoga Principles teacher training, then go to that website and you'll see a little pop-up and you can get the newsletter through there. Okay, so I think they're the main ones. Tell your friends, pay us some money on Patreon, give us a review on iTunes, send us your email if you want to be on the newsletter list, and get involved on the Facebook there. Bit long. Pick whatever you like that works for you. Until next time, welcome home to the body.